Eric Whiteback is an account on Twitter that I follow that is a phenomenal account. I am a big fan of the tweets that he puts out. This one I thought was extremely interesting. He puts out a lot of other great stuff, but this was one that really kind of it encapsulated, I think, what happened to the basketball market. And I'll just read the tweet. Of the 620,000 cards that PSA has graded from 2019 Prizm basketball, 358,000, almost 359,000 are base cards. Yeah, and I was looking at some of the numbers, and Zion has almost 40,000 total graded. Ja has, I think, 38,000. Even Tyler Herro has like 25,000. And then I was looking, so Bol in this picture, I was looking at his. He has almost 10,000, I believe was the number that I saw, which is just insane. I was actually surprised that LaMelo Ball didn't have as many. And I think it's sort of, I think that's because grading really shut down when Prizm basketball was going to come out. That's probably why there aren't as many LaMelo Balls. But the fact that there are, of the almost 620,000 graded cards, there are almost 40,000 Zions, like 40,000 total PSA graded Zions, which I think that's really what happened to the market and why. And I think I always say the market, and I always refer to the basketball market. There's literally so many ways to define what the market is. Like because I think one thing, I posted this on TikTok, and somebody, I think his name is Local Card Shop. He left a comment and said, like, the market's not down. Like, you're just a news reporter and commenting on the market, which I don't necessarily disagree with. I am just commenting on what I'm seeing, because then I went to his page and he's selling a lot of basketball cards. So like for him, the market's obviously not down. For him, you can find cards for good value and sell them or flip them, however you're going to sell them. So it's like, I'm using, maybe I'm referring to the market as maybe it's the 2019 Prizm basketball market, because that market has absolutely collapsed. Like if you look at those cards across the board, if you look at like Zions and Jaws, like the prices of those over the past year have dropped significantly. Like I don't even, percentage wise, I'm not 100% sure on the percentage. Actually, I'm going to go to Card Ladder and look at that percentage right now, actually, because the number is much higher, to be honest, than I think. Zion Williamson, this is going to make Prizm PSA 10. Go to the Card Ladder. I know this is going to make for let's do comparison, compare the indexes cards, compare Zion Williamson, Prizm PSA 10. Oops. Zion Williamson, 100, and right now it's sitting at, last sold $197 for a Zion PSA 10. Over the 2 years, that is a 68% drop. And over 1 year, it is 40%. So not terrible, but all time, this card was almost $1,000 in December of 2020, which I think is one of the things you look at. I just think it's wild that December of 2020, this is where I talked about this on TikTok as well. I was sort of caught up in the market and in making crazy predictions, saying that the card market was never going to. It was a little bit naive of me, to be honest. Like, even though tons of people, I think at that time, were saying that these are cycles and they go through ups and downs, I think that these cards themselves were the detriment to the market of them, if that makes sense. Like even Bol for this example, I think, like I said, he almost had 10,000 cards graded by PSA. This dude is not, like, he's been on 10 different teams already and he barely even plays. Now, maybe it's an injury, whatever. But like Kobe White, Tyler Herro, I think was in that $20,000 range, or 20,000 PSA graded card range. But I think it's unfortunate what has happened to that type of market. I think everybody, for the most part, got caught up in the fact that people were grading Lukas and Trae Young's and maybe even Michael Porter Jr., they were grading those cards and flipping them pretty easily. Like, even the Luka card, for example, like you could look at that one and say, like, I'm going to look up even that one has sort of gone down pretty significantly too. It's $360. So let's see, let's go 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. That one's also down 72%. So at the peak at this point, again, December 2020, that was a $2,000 card. And I guess maybe the question is like, do the cards ever rebound to that point? I think they probably won't ever get to a point where I don't think they ever get to a point where the Luka is $2,000 or the Zion is $1,000. Just based on the fact, looking at the population of these cards, like based on the fact there's 21,000 PSA 10 Zions and there's almost 19,000 PSA 10 Lukas. I don't see them getting to that point. I still think that they're going to fluctuate. I still think that they could go up, and I think people will flip them. But I also think one thing that happened with this market and with so many of these PSA or with so many of these 2019 cards getting graded, one thing that I think happened was like, I think people didn't. I think it's sort of a conundrum that people were in. I think that everyone wanted to grade, rip packs, grade the cards, flip the cards, and that was everybody's game plan. And I think everyone else thought that other people weren't doing that, which is what led to PSA continuously getting backed up, which led to them getting shut, which led to the service getting shut down for a significant portion of time, which led to now these prices going down, which, everybody opening packs, grading, flipping led to PSA getting backed up, led to eventually all these cards being sent back in bulk orders, which was because PSA, they hired a bunch of people. They hired a ton of new graders, which then led to everybody then trying to sell the cards, which also, in my opinion, I think people saw the first few prices of some of these cards that were getting graded and sold, and in their head, they expected that their cards were then going to sell for that. And if they bought Prizm, which at the time, because if you're buying 2019 Prizm, I remember buying blasters. I bought 2 blasters when 2019 Prizm came out. I bought 2 blasters for like $40 a piece. Like, sure, probably should have been 20 or 25, but I bought them at a local card store that was in my area, and I bought them for $35 and I think $40. So if you get a Zion out of that, and this was when bulk submissions were still available with group subbers, and it was kind of like that until like a few months later. That's when these were still like available. You could still do all that stuff for pretty cheap. So like if you're, these are when a hobby box of Prizm 2019 when it first came out, if the blasters were 40, the hobby boxes at the time were probably 300 to 400, which like if you're getting all the top rookies and you're sending them in to get graded, you can do all that fairly inexpensively. And even if you're selling your Zions, even if you were selling your Zions at $190 or $200, or if you sold them at $400 or whatever, you were still probably making a decent profit. You probably were still making some money on those cards, and you were okay, even though it wasn't selling for 800, even though it was maybe selling for 600 or 500, you were okay selling it for that much because you were still profiting, which I think that led to an influx of those 2019 Prizm cards being sold. Like, I think once they started getting sent back, they were down 50%, but people were still up 50% on what they spent on all the grading. Sure, maybe some of them probably waited 6 months to 12 months to get the cards back, but I think people were okay with the profit they were making, which then led to people continuing to kind of undercut the last sold. Also, off season, I think you see card values kind of go down a little bit in the off season. Luka's playing in that Euro tournament, so he's had a little bit of buzz. I don't think that's really affecting his cards too much. I think that also people are starting to sort of realize that like these players have to be superstars for their cards to really increase more than they do. And I think the upside was already baked in to the Prizm cards at those prices. And unfortunately, I think what ends up happening is that when it doesn't happen in a year, when Luka isn't as good as LeBron in a year, people are like, I'm just going to sell and maybe I'll buy back later. And like I said, they probably, you could have been buying PSA 10 Lukas. Like I bought 2 PSA 10 Lukas for, I believe, $40 a piece. So, and I sold them, I think at like $600 or $700 a piece. So it's like, there was people that made there, and I only bought 2. Like there's people that probably bought like hundreds and they sold it for that much. So it's like, when it goes up, you keep thinking it's going to go up. I think it's reflexivity, I think is the term. When it's essentially it's a financial term that people, this isn't going to sound 100% correct, I think, but it's when assets go up, people think that they're never going to stop going up. And when assets go down, people think that assets are never going to stop going down. Essentially, that's what that is. And I think that's sort of what we've seen with all the different types of markets at some point within sports cards. Like when they were going up, when Lukas or when these Luka cards are selling for, 1,500, 2,000, people are like, these are going to 5,000 or whatever. And now that they're kind of going down, people are looking at it, maybe poo-pooing the market a little bit. But at the same time, like it's a psychological thing that maybe people are going through when they're seeing the difference in the market and kind of what's happening in general. And I think the 2019 Prizm basketball, the fact that so many of these cards were graded, the fact that so many people probably made a decent amount of money on these cards, I think that's kind of the main reason, in my opinion, why we're seeing sort of some of the downward trends. Also, like I've always said in the past, the 2019 rookie class had the perfect storm of the pandemic happening, the season stopping, everyone thinking that every player was good from that draft because they only played in half a season. And, some of them were pretty good in that half a season. So then they go into the stoppage, and then they have the bubble where only a certain amount of people come. And then you have the whole off season you have an extended off season because I'm pretty sure that season ended in August or September, and then the next season I don't believe started until Christmas, if I'm not mistaken. There was the next season started that next Christmas. But either way, so there was a ton of time in between when people were buying those 2019 cards and when they were shown that some of the players weren't good. The Kobe Whites, who's fine, like I've always said, the Bol Bols, the Tyler Herro, who's like a 6-man, great, but like not at sometimes the Kobe White was selling for the same price as the Ray Allen. So it's like it doesn't make not Kobe White, Tyler Herro. So that sometimes the markets don't make sense. And when something maybe doesn't make sense, maybe it is a good idea to take a step back and try and figure it out. And if it still doesn't make sense, then maybe you just don't participate, I guess, is maybe one way to look at it. Like, that's why, I wasn't buying heavy on any of those 2019 prospects. I bought some Zion cards. I bought some Jaw cards. I sold them. But either way, I think that's sort of what's happened with the 2019 basketball Prizm market in general.